Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closures. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be with you today. And I don't know about you guys, but it is after October 15th, so you're probably like, whoa, got some done taxes and stuff like that. Well, I know there's a lot of folks out there that are working full-time jobs and wanting to invest more and looking to get through that. And I thought it would be great to bring on one of our coaching students who is doing both that. He's still working full-time in his job as a certified tax consultant. And he's glad October 15th has come and gone, but he's also a real estate investor, primarily a note investor. And we have our good buddy here, Sterling James, join us here on the podcast today. Sterling, how are you doing, man? Are you being able to sleep later? I mean, obviously you're not putting in 80 hours a week there, but you're probably, hey, it's time. I'm glad it's after October 15th now, huh?
I am. Yeah, it is. It's nice. Sleeping in a little bit and just taking the pressure of that deadline off, which most people death and taxes kind of thing. It's hopefully we've got some more years on this planet, but taxes will probably be with us until you do die. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Now, you've been a note investor for a while. One of our coaches is closing on a couple of those. We'll talk about those deals, but talk about a little bit your background. What were you doing before we met, and kind of what's your background in real estate investing as a whole?
Okay. Well, I'm a mature man, maybe not, but I've been on the planet for a while, and I love real estate, and I have since I was a teenager. I bought my first real estate when I was a teenager, 19, a triplex, and I was back in Texas, where I'm from, and it just went from there. I did some, I don't know, I moved to California for a number of years, where I met my wife. I bought foreclosures was what I was really in. I had a partnership with someone else, and we bought foreclosures on the courthouse steps as well as from individuals. Did a lot of flipping properties. Um, been moved to Oregon when my wife was pregnant with our first child, and to get away from the LA basin, so to speak, and started looking more into rentals, developing that kind of thing, and I don't want to say I've done it all, but I've had a lot of experience in the space
Sure,
on both sides of
that's
the fence.
definitely a lot of experience stuff like
Yeah,
that for you.
and I experienced it all the way up until 2008 and nine, where I was very leveraged, heavily leveraged, and had some big reversals then,
Mhm.
and opened my eyes a lot. It also forced me to get a day job at the time because I was self-employed for the most part up until that point, and went to the accounting field, which I have a background in, and wanted in taxes and that kind of thing. And but I've been a real estate investor. I continued through that. I still have rental properties and others, but so that kind of lands me closer to your field in the last couple of years. Is one of the things that I've experienced throughout my real estate investing is, for the most part, I had to borrow money in order to purchase properties or do what I was going to do. And they always got paid, and they always generally the investors always got paid well. Sometimes I didn't make hardly any money on the thing, but the investors actually did. And they also had first priority. We were generally, and so that's just something that I've known about. Of course, I know how that works, especially buying foreclosure properties.
Yeah.
And so the idea of note investing really appealed to me because it's really at the base of everything. It's other than taxes, which we have to, you have to pay. But other than that, if you're buying a first trust deed, as an example, or buying on it, you have priority over everything else on there, and that's a in the real estate business, that's about as safe as it gets in my book. And so I really wanted to be in that position, and so that's what I've been concentrating on is buying, in this case, non-performing notes, but first trust deeds. It's not that there's not good money to be made in other endeavors, junior liens, et cetera, but my sweet spot is first. And like I said, I'm getting longer in the tooth, and so I've had a lot of experience. I don't want to. I just don't want to be as risky as I used to be,
Mhm.
and so here I am.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, with your rental experience and background stuff like that, what do you see? Um, to be precise, but what do you see as far as like your profit margin on a month in and out basis? Is it like $200, $300? less than 100, more than 500. Obviously it varies on what kind of price points you're buying at, but where do you see your rental monthly income being at?
Well, in past times it seems to be it was a lot wider.
Mhm.
The last few years, especially, the market's been pretty strong, generally speaking, especially in the places that one would want to be um, in for rentals. And so, gosh, getting a rental with more than a couple $100 monthly cash flow is tough. It's not that it's impossible, but unless you're really buying cheaply, and just you just have a lot of competition around that.
Mhm.
Also, just in general, and of course, I don't know everything, but my perception of the market is that um, prices really haven't come down a lot. They are in some markets, yes, but they really haven't. I think people are still holding out for pricing, and so it's I love rental property. I do. There's a lot of tax advantages and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. There really is, especially with bonus depreciation, et cetera. But it's just yeah, it's tougher to make any real cash flow on that. It's
You're
more of
not,
a buy and hold kind of thing.
yeah, you're not, we hear that all over and time again. What markets did you, or do you have, or do you still like buying in, or that you're holding stuff in right now?
Well, I like Texas a lot. Tennessee, we have some things in a couple of things in Memphis. I've invested in a number of limited partners where wasn't the actual active participant in. And those are generally big apartment complexes,
Mhm.
which have had some really tough times over the last number of years because they were leveraged with really low financing, but it was interim financing. The idea is that to increase rents, to fix them up, the refinance out of it. It's a beautiful way of doing it, but when the rates jump up double, then they couldn't. In fact, one of the ones that I had, I was able to sell it at 75 cents on the dollar. Took a big loss, but it went to zero. So I feel really happy about like, thank you God getting 75 cents out. But that market is, that's having some trials and tribulations right now.
Yeah, a lot of markets like that. I've got a buddy. It's in 20 of them, something like that, and 19 aren't paying. It's a smoldering dumpster fire in a lot of the multifamily sides, which is
Right,
sad. And the one we drove by, the one that you were in your ride of, is here in Austin, actually. Not too
right,
far from my office is here. And so when you came out, we drove by it, and you were happy to take a picture in front of this deal I got out of this dud.
right. It's all relative. It's like at the time when I was selling my interest for 75 cents on the dollar, I wasn't thrilled about it.
Right.
But in retrospect, when it went to zero, I was thrilled about it. So yeah, I was
Mhm.
I was a happy camper to have come out of that
Mhm.
just slightly scathed, but not.
Not lost, not a total loss there for you. But
Right.
so that's why I think, is that why you led to more like, hey, I want to do more things a little bit more passive, not so um dependent on other things, something I can control a bit more so with your on a part-time basis, kind of passive basis there, Sterling.
That's exactly right. It's like I don't know if I completely learned this lesson, but at least intellectually, I've learned that I have control over hardly anything in the world. As much as I want to exert myself and think that I do, I don't. And the world's going to do what the world's going to do. We're going through some pretty exciting times right now, depending on, it doesn't even matter what side of that, whatever. Things are going on that are out of my control, and they always will be. And so, what can I do as an individual to protect myself, protect my family? And so, dealing in notes, I mean, barring the zombie apocalypse or something, there's going to be everybody needs a place to live,
Yep.
and you have to pay for that place, whether you're renting it or whether you're owning it outright. But even so, there's generally speaking mortgage financing involved, most likely, and so that's just something that I foresee is going to continue on. And so being on the right side of that, so to speak, a place that's as protected as one can be, and then even more specifically, investing in non-performing notes is what you specialize in and what I specialize in. It's actually I, I'm not, I'm not I'm speaking to you, but I know that you of course know all this. But one of the things that's really struck me around note investing and specifically non-performing notes is that Most performing notes that someone like you or I can buy, meaning not a bank or something else that they're buying, are going to be it's going to be owner financing of some sort. It's going to be originated by a non-professional, or it might be someone that's a professional in the space, a realtor or something else, but still it's not going to be and so there's a lot of ways that it can go wrong. That's the first thing. The second is that when you're buying a performing note, there's always that, well, something could go wrong, but most people don't think about it like that. And so they price it like it's just going to be continuing on the way it is. And that happens sometimes, but not all the time. And so all of a sudden you're into a foreclosure position and you bought it wrong, basically, because that's just something that you're going to lose money on. We're buying things that are not performing. We're already in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
We're buying it based on where it is right now. And if it gets worse, basically that just means that we foreclose and we have the property. And as long as we're buying at the right numbers, which we are, then it's not that that there's never a loss. There certainly could be, but we minimize that. And so anyway, I really appreciate this space, so to speak, that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, being able to buy at a discount, and if something does go wrong, you still got the full value of the property well above what the balance is and what you're owed, or what you actually not what minutes what you're owed. Sometimes you're buying upside down, but what you paid for the asset, you build your really kind of your own equity into the deal there in case things continue to go south. And if they do decide to reperform, it can be kind of a positive experience when they start paying on time again, right, Sterling?
It really is. The I just I mentioned it before we started recording that I just put a bid out on a couple of properties, and there one of them is well, they're actually both in bankruptcy, which is seems like it could be a bad thing, but it actually could be a very good thing in our space. And the property is the total amount owed is round numbers $120,000.
Hmm.
But the property is only worth about $70,000. And so, we're actually making a bid at $45,000. And the idea being, in this case, it's in bankruptcy, they're making payments. You're We have to plan that we're going to take the property back, and so we have to continue. But there's a good chance that they could continue making payments, and the upside is just huge. So that's just one little example, but the couple that the most recent ones that I actually purchased kind of turned out the same way, in that they both are now filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is just basically a repayment plan. The beauty of that is that it has to be approved by the trustee, the bankruptcy trustee, and so they have to qualify, so to speak. They have to show the income, et cetera, to be able to qualify with their plan. And these people it's owner occupied. They want to be in their house. I certainly want to be in my house. I mentioned back in 2008 and 9, there's a chance we could have lost the house I was living in.
Same here.
And it's like, oh, that got my attention. That would be the last thing I would want to happen. But anyway, so, that's one of the things that we also were buying owner occupied properties. But both these notes, they're making their payments. We've had, actually, I was mentioning to you, one of them to date is a 34.5% return, and which comes out to 69% year on year. And the other one is 32%, which came out to 48%. That one was actually in my self-directed IRA, which is kind of sweet because I don't have to pay any tax on that. I'm over 59 and a half, in case anybody's wondering. So I can take money out of my IRA with that, with impunity, so to speak. So it's actually a really nice setup there as well. So
Yeah, that's a pretty good yield. Those are some pretty damn good yields, and they weren't huge investment amounts though, too, right, Sterling? They
right,
were, you know, what was it? One was under 50. Is that they were
right,
both
and they're
under
pretty
50?
modest amounts.
Yeah.
And of course, one can't expect that all the
Right.
time. No,
Right.
but and as I mentioned too, both of these were augmented. They were bigger than I'd actually bargained for. In
Hmm.
that when we actually we did our due diligence and got the price way down because of what we discovered, and then discovered after we actually closed on it that the numbers we had bargained for were a little bit they were better than what we did. And so I remember you telling a story of getting the note file and finding a nice big insurance check in there that was uncashed that you got, things like I'm waiting for that. So I every time I get a note file, I'm like looking for that check.
right?
Haven't found that yet, but
Or the deed, or the signed deed in lieu and sitting on
or the
top of the
signed deed in
file.
lieu, right? Or something
Yeah.
other.
Well, let's talk about these two deals because I think they're great case studies of starting off, using your own funds and starting to work that aspect. Whereas a lot of people will probably overlook them. So why don't we let's talk about the Mayo, Florida one and what kind of happened now. Without giving away a name, who was the seller? Was it a hedge fund, a bank, a private individual? I don't remember
That was
exactly.
actually a hedge fund.
Okay.
And so that was they sent over a tape of, oh, I'm going to say probably 300 properties, but I'm not sure, or 300 notes, I should say.
Yep.
And at that time made a bid on about a half a dozen of them. And as is seems typical in this business, a lot of things end up falling out during the due diligence.
Yep.
One was taken away by them just because they couldn't make good on the title. And several more dropped out from our end once we, got broker price opinions on the value, or found some inconsistencies if they can't. One of the things that you've taught is, this is a dot your I's, cross your T's type of business. You just have
Yep.
to make sure that everything is in the file, because if you don't have everything done, then you can't collect on it. Basically, you can't
Right.
foreclose, you can't perfect your lien. So anyway, ended up with this property, or I should say this note. It's a common thing to say property, but we don't own the property. The property is in Florida, and the we bought the trust deed, and what it was, the unpaid principal balance was about 52,000 according to the thing. And so after due diligence, we had made an offer of 35,000, and it was accepted. And
What's
this
the rough value of the property
the
on that?
value of the property is about 120,000. So we had plenty of equity if we had a foreclose on the property. So that's one of the first things we check, just to make sure that, as if we got the property back, first off, do we want the property? And if we don't want the property, then we don't buy the note, because that's always a possibility, of course. And not that we would keep the property, but we just don't want to. If we don't want something, if we don't think that's a good thing to have on our books, then we don't buy it. So we made that bid. In this particular case, the borrower of the note, they had filed for bankruptcy, so they're in foreclosure, and they filed for bankruptcy protection, which is a very common thing. Some people do it just to delay the foreclosure. But in this case, they actually filed a Chapter 13, wanting to keep the house. And as I mentioned before, that's, of course, they want to keep the house, but not everybody can. Not everybody has the income. Something happens, and death, divorce, etc., and
Job loss, all that good
job
stuff.
loss,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't. And so, if need be, we're in a position where we can help someone move on, but in a nice way. I mean, it's not that we're pushovers or whatever, but we don't have to be mean. But anyway, in this case, they filed for bankruptcy. They qualified for it, and so Chapter 13 is a repayment. And so after we actually closed on the note and got the documents, transferred the servicing to our servicing company. The one that I like is in Spokane, Washington. But there's
Yeah. Allied
another one.
servicing. Yeah. They're
Yeah,
good.
they're very good. They're just moving into a new building now. Anyway, and so they do, one of the key things is not to do it all myself. In fact, is to rely on professionals all along the way to make sure that everything is correct, because I certainly have an expertise in this field in general, but as far as all the specific things, I'm not an attorney. I'm not, I am an accountant, but yeah, but I'm not a bankruptcy accountant either. And so they went through all this. And after the note that was transferred and I received my file, I did not see a check in there or a deed in lieu. But they did their due diligence with the bankruptcy trustee. It turns out that the actual unpaid principal balance, the legal balance, was quite a bit higher. It was actually almost $12,000 higher than what I bargained for, and which was, thank you, God. So they've been paying on it nicely, and as I mentioned, the numbers, it's so far the cash on cash return that I've gotten this year is 32% of what I paid for it. In this case, it was $35,000 is what we end up, and then it's that annualizes to 48%. So that was that, and that, the obviously something could change. The people could, for whatever reason, not be able to continue paying, but they certainly have paid quite a bit so far, and they want to stay in the house, and so we're, but either way, we'll come out of this just fine, and we already are. So
Yeah, I mean, they had a little higher interest rate. I mean, if I don't remember what their monthly payment was, but we knew buying it that they hadn't paid for 2 years. And
mhm.
we knew that, okay, if you buy it and they at least bring a year to the table on top of reinstating again, it would be a pretty good yield for you. Well, it just turned out to be better. Because now, was there some of this money sitting at the bankruptcy waiting for a lender to collect on it too, as well?
That's actually part of it there was, and the so before we transferred the note, one of the things that we had to get was a proof of claim, which is a
Hmm.
thing that the lender puts into the bankruptcy petition to prove that they actually have a legitimate claim. And so, in getting that done, the proof of claim was higher than, once again, than what we had bargained
Expected.
for, and so, and it was approved by the trustee and the everybody, and so
Yep.
that's where that came from. So yes, and even without that, it's still a nice return, but with that, it's just an added bonus.
Yeah, it's a nice. It's a single. It's like a little single that keeps going, going, going to where it's a little home run. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Single, because
yeah,
that's why I say this is a business of singles and doubles. You know what I mean? And every once in a while you hit a home run.
right,
And that's a good thing. And like I said, they pay you off, they refinance out. It's an even better job. The yield goes through for you. The only problem with that is you got to turn around and put that money back to work on something else, right?
right, yeah.
Now let's talk about the other one that you mentioned is doing phenomenal as well. Where is that located and what's the details on that one?
That's actually in South Carolina and Timminsville, which seemed like a nice area. I just actually was looking at another note from in that area that, anyway. So it was, once again, not telling you anything you don't know, but there's just all kinds of nuances in this business. And so we originally made the unpaid principal balance on this property that's worth about, well, actually, it's about the same, $120,000 is where the BPO came in. They only owed $30,000 on it. And it was actually in bankruptcy, and it had been agreed to, but they hadn't started paying on it. And anyway, they show that the unpaid principal balance was round numbers around $30,000. 30, I think it was $32,000, and we made a bid of $20,000, and it was accepted. And so now that we have an accepted bid, we do our due diligence, and and this was actually a hedge fund as well that we got this from. So they sent over the documents, and I started going through, and we started going. And one of the things, since it wasn't bankruptcy, looking up all the documents that had been filed, and one was the proof of claim, which is what I described on the first one. And the proof of claim showed that there was a balance approximately of 17,500 versus 30,000. So it was like, I mean, the most that I could possibly collect would be 17,500, and I'd already have an accepted bid of 20,000, which obviously didn't work. And so I notified the hedge fund of that, and they said, "Well, we'll get back to you." Um, and then they did get back to us, and they said, "Oh, okay, you're right." And I said, "Okay." So then I offered, at that point I offered $10,000. They said, "Well, we can't go that far. We could go to 13,000." And then they came back and they said, "Well, it looks like they made a payment and the balance is now only 13,500." And I'm like, "Okay, so I assume you're willing to take less." So anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up buying it for $8,000. And this is a pretty modest amount, but I just was like, okay, it's $8,000. Well, so then we consummated that deal, closed it, got the file over. There was no check or no deed in lieu foreclosure in the file, but I was okay with that. But what I found out was, once again, after actually auditing and I say auditing, not myself, but my servicing
Right.
company auditing the bankruptcy file. Lo and behold, the balance was $17,000, and um, and and they're paying on it, and they're once again there's a huge amount of equity. So if they didn't pay on it, not that I would wish that for anybody, but we certainly are in a very protected position.
And this is a nice look at, these are not trashy houses. Let's
No,
just
no, no,
put
they're
that
not
up.
trashy houses at all. In fact, I mean,
No.
depending on where you live, you might say $120,000 house, that's got to be a dump. Well,
Right.
maybe in Austin and maybe I'm in the Portland, Oregon area, you're not going to get a lot of house for that money. But in these places in South Carolina and Florida, these are nice houses. They're not the Taj Mahal, but they're actually very, a house. And
They're
they're,
very quality, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I think the
yeah,
ones at Timminsville is green, if I remember, and then the
yeah,
Mayo has a green metal roof on it, I think, if I remember
yeah.
correctly from the photos
Wow.
of doing it.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
listen to you. Yes. I'm going to do
Well,
it. And so, and one of the things we've talked about a lot over since I've known you is we're in business, of course, and I'm not here to save the world. And it's also really nice. Generally speaking, I do financially the best if people can stay in their home and they want to stay in their home, and so everybody wins. And depending on what you're buying and how you're buying it, we can often offer a really nice discount to how much they do owe if they make their payments and whatnot. And so it's actually kind of a cool thing. It's like I said, it's not my first. I'm not here to save the world and keep, but it's really nice to be in business, to have a good return, and also the people that are involved are all doing well as well. So it's worked out that way.
yeah, it totally has worked out that way. I mean, it's great when you make money helping people stay in their houses when you can. You
Mhm.
don't run a charity, and they don't pay, you're going to start foreclosure process on it just because you don't want to take bacon off your table. But it's a good day when you're able to help folks stay in there. And the surprising thing is that these were sitting out there. They were overlooked by I don't know how many folks because I know the hedge fund and they send it out to a few investors. And folks would have looked over it, but it was like, oh, this one, it's got some promise to it, doing a little deeper dive. That huge
Mhm.
amount of equity above what's owed is always nice. That kind of ensures that the borrowers don't want to lose that. Some people will avoid those low balances, but I think those low balances, when they're in your IRA, hey, a yield's a yield, right, Sterling?
Yeah, really, it actually is. And one of the things that I've come across mostly with people that have like self-directed IRAs is a common thing is, okay, maybe they saw, a podcast on real estate or something along these lines, and they get all excited and they get their money transferred into their self-directed IRA, and then it's like, now what? Or maybe they did one deal with somebody and then it paid off at some point, and now what? And so, yeah, it's yes, small balances. I mean, we generally with investors, we're at 50,000 or above, but still, I mean, that's not to sneeze at 50,000. That certainly is, but yes, I think that's part of it too. Is that some maybe bigger investors don't want to deal with anything smaller than a couple $100,000. Um, I'm in a position where no, I'm actually just fine with a smaller number, bigger numbers too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, but it's a great way. You've put one you bought with baby cash, the other one you use your IRA for, and stuff like it's paying off well for you, and you're seeing more opportunities. And yes, and he will say it if you're not thinking about it, yes, Sterling is always glad to work with investors who want to put some lazy asses to work, maybe some small amounts to partner up with on some stuff, right, Sterling?
Definitely, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're doing a great thing. You're only buying first liens. You're making sure that they got equity. You're not paying above 70% of the unpaid balance or the value of the property, whichever's less. You're
Hmm.
using a third-party service with Allied. You're using attorneys to deal with a BK, or if it's a foreclosure aspect, you've got that. And you're buying at a price that makes sense. That if it's owner occupied, great. If something happens from God, you're taken care of because you're the first lien. If it's if you have to foreclose, you're sitting in a good spot to either foreclose and get your money back at the auction, or end up owning an asset that's a whole lot higher, or even in those equity deals, offering the borrower some cash or keys to move on and take the property back as well, too, right, Sterling?
Exactly. Yeah, those are the
Now, let me ask you a question. Both of these are judicial states. Why did you buy in a judicial state versus a non-judicial state?
well, So in this particular case, because they had actually were in the bankruptcy process, and we had the equity there, and so if we did have to judicially foreclose, it takes longer, as you know,
Yeah.
but it's there's still plenty of equity to do that. But if they weren't in the process of making good, so to speak, then I might have passed it up for that reason. So yeah, because my intention is it certainly is can be very viable to go in and foreclose on properties, but that's not my first
Yeah.
desire to do. And
Right.
so yeah.
Well, but it turned out that it fell in exactly as we thought. We thought they'd start paying in 90 days or sooner
Mm.
because they took the opportunity and wanted to stay in the house, and it worked out that way. Just kind of getting a feel for things. Now, let me ask you a question here. Is it hard to find these types of deals? Do you have to go out and mail, drop tons of letter campaigns or postcards to foreclosures or sellers to find these kinds of deals?
No, in fact, that's another thing. It's you have to have the your due diligence and actually have hedge funds and banks that you work with. And but there's a number of them that I've worked with so far, and their departments they want to sell these notes, and so you have a willing seller, and it's just a matter of putting the things together. That's one of the other, I guess, aspects of real estate because I have flipped a lot of properties and bought a lot, and you have to go out and get it. And it's not that that's impossible. In fact, with technology, it's easier to find things today, but it's also easier for your competition to find things. I'm just thinking back a long time ago when I was buying foreclosures in California, and well, as I say, the internet wasn't even a thing yet. I'm like, oh
Right.
my God. And so we had an arrangement with a title company to go and do research on the title on properties that we were looking to bid on. That was the way that you got information. And so it was more difficult, and it also cut way down on your competition because very few people were willing or able to do that. But now with technology, people um, still a technique involved. I mean, yes, there's a lot more information available, but it's still about relationships as well, and just an ongoing thing with banks, hedge funds to get these, and then with investors as well to fund different things. And so, but it's a lot easier because I'm doing everything that we're talking about from where I'm sitting right here. I mean, this is it versus having to go out and drive properties and all the other things that I used to do back in the day. Because getting back to your thing, of course, we have people drive properties, trusted professionals that can give us good, brokers' price opinions on properties, et cetera. But that's all done more of the quarterback position, so to speak, versus actually having to do it all hands on. And at my age, I just don't I don't want to do
You're
that
you're
anymore.
not. I mean, yes, you got a little bit more seasoning stuff like that, but yes, we nobody likes to go out and walk stuff, especially when you can do it remotely. It makes it much more time. And as we were talking about, we all want more time in our day, right? To do
We
more
really
things that we
do. I mean,
want.
that's kind of one of my issues is like as I get older, I don't have enough time. But one of the things just of kind of just thinking about it, my experience over the years, not that I want to do that now, but gosh, I can almost just look at a picture of a house and tell you its story. And it's not quite that, whatever, but I've just seen so much. I mean, hands-on, and talked to so many people in so many situations and real estate involved and generally and so it just really helps to get a feel for something uh, in a remote location. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
We'll also have a professional appraiser or realtor driving by to take pull photos and comps. That helps you out with it versus just a friend driving by taking a photo that doesn't want to get out of the car. We've all
right.
seen that happen, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to your teenage boy from Beaumont back in the day? If you could go back now and tell that kid one thing, what would it do when it comes to real estate? I mean, there's a lot of lessons you probably tell them to do, what not to do, but what's one thing you would tell that kid?
You mean besides don't forget the sunscreen or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one. That's always a good one. Yep, yep, exactly. Keep the sunscreen. A little more
Right.
lemonade, not so many beers for
Yeah,
sure.
right, right. Oh, it's oh gosh. Yes, be able to bestow wisdom on, anybody, my teenage self. But, part of the living is just figuring it out.
You know,
It's like, man, I can tell somebody all of whatever, or I can hear it from someone who's brilliant. But they say that words don't teach, that experience teaches. And so everything that I've done up to my life, good and bad, has gotten me where I am right now. And I really appreciate that. So going back and changing something, I don't know. I mean, wear sunscreen, maybe a couple other things if my teenage self would even listen to me. But gosh darn it, I don't. Yeah, I'm kind of liking what's going on right now and what
that's
I've
good.
been through. And like I said, it's not all been just rosy or anything by any means, but
No, I love that. But that's the true is that the butterfly effect. If I go back and change something, I'm going to end up where I'm at now. I'm pretty good where I'm at now. So the
yeah,
mistakes or experience along the way has led you down the correct path. Now, I have to ask a question. Are you still getting tapes, which I already know the answer to, but are these hedge funds and lenders still sending you tapes on a regular basis for you to cherry pick from?
they are, and obviously I have competition because they're not just sending them to
Yeah.
me. But as we've already talked about, um, I have a different viewpoint and different criteria than someone else might. And
Mhm.
so, sometimes, so yes, the first answer is yes, I am still getting them. I'm making active bids on them. And one of the hedge funds, it's funny, when I'll send them, let's say, 6 bids on properties or whatever, it doesn't. And then if I don't get those bids, they'll say, do you want to know what the winning bid was? And I said, sure, because I want to know what my competition is doing, just see how far I was off, if I whatever. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it's way off, and I'm wondering what in the world was this other person, thinking about or whatever. But yeah, well, as I learned from you and just my experience, is to do the due diligence, get your number, and don't be swayed by some other person. I mean, I know that if I get what I want, it will be a good deal. And so anyway, yeah,
What
I'm
what
with it.
what what would you say about the coaching program with you? Was it pretty hands-on for you? Did you get some introductions? You make some things happen?
Yeah, I could sing your praises for years and years. Thank you, first off. No, that's one of the things that really attracted me to you. First off, I got just from the start, like most people, watching some YouTube videos that you put out. You put out a lot, in case someone doesn't know, that you know what you're doing. And that's the first thing, and you have a vast, vast experience in this thing. And you also love to teach, which is, I might be a brilliant guy, I'm not, but I don't have that teaching thing that you do. And I just love that. You're very, very patient. And you just bring so much to the table because you just your level of detail on what to do, how to do it, and then also in your case in the coaching, yes, you gave me a lot of shortcuts in that you introduced me to hedge funds and banks that I may have been able to get, but I got instantaneously, and so that was a huge leg up. I really, and then not only that, but just how to deal with this because there's a lot of nuances and just we're all human beings, but just ways that people do business and what they expect and how to how to converse with and on their level and that kind of thing. And so I really do appreciate that. And yeah, and then I got to go to your neck of the woods, which is my neck of the woods back in the day, and just I enjoyed your sweetie pie and you and just being hands on one on one was just a tremendous experience. And not to mention barbecue. I just mentioned it, but um, yeah, that was wonderful. No, I just enjoyed being with you, and
Yep.
you just were so gracious and showed me around and treated me so well, and not and all that. I mean, just you taught me so much, and you continue to because you're just being able to talk with you, to watch the content that you're putting out. It's always insightful, and it's like a lot of things. I've had a lot of experience in different things, but oftentimes you'll put something in a way that's like, wow, I never really looked at it like that before, and so I really do appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate people that they're coachable and take action. And that was the great thing is when you learn something, you ask questions and weren't afraid to ask questions, which I love. But then it's also like, oh, hey, I made an offer on something. Oh, you did? What are the numbers like? Like, what's this? I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, oh, I closed another note this week. I'm like, yeah, Steph can tell me I dance a jig anytime one of my students and friends closes on a note deal. Like, I get more excitement about that than me closing on a deal, which is kind of funny. But now you're doing a great job, and yes, barbecue at Black's, Terry Black's was a lot of fun. We were looking through photos on my phone cleanup. I was like, oh, I'm not getting rid of this one. That $300 plate of barbecue in front of Sterling is hilarious. The smile from ear to ear
All right.
because you just don't get that same type of barbecue. Get some decent stuff up in Portland and that
Mhm.
kind of, but it's not the same thing. You know what I mean? Definitely not the
It
same
is
thing.
not.
What's a goal that you've set for yourself for the upcoming year? And maybe you haven't had time to decompress yet from tax season stuff, but what's a goal that you're kind of setting for yourself for the next 12 or so months?
Well, one of the things that is, well, so yes, I couldn't say that I formally written it down, which I know is actually would be very useful to do. But what I really like to do is expand my note business
Yeah.
because well, it's so darn profitable, and it's it's just a way that I can ensure the long-term benefits, because not all these are long-term, but it just, as you mentioned before, when you're in this space, then things come your way that wouldn't come to your way if you weren't in this space. And that could be coming from hedge funds that we deal with, or banks, but it could also be coming from fellow investors and other things. And so that's what I'd really like to press forward on that, because um, believe it or not, I actually like doing taxes, which I know is probably going to people think, oh, this guy's got to be really weird. Um, and I don't want to be doing that the rest of my life either. Although that the knowledge base is very, very helpful, because real estate and taxes go hand in hand. And But yeah, so just be more and more so that I can actually retire. And when I say retire, it would be just from having to work
Yeah.
versus, I don't think I'll ever want to retire. I mean, this is so fun. So I really do appreciate being in this space with you, and just doing more of the same. And I guess if I had to say one other thing, I think I mentioned this to you before, but the idea of collaboration with other investors is also very appealing.
Yeah.
With commercial real estate the way it's going, and I still think there's some more bottoming out. That's just an area that also is interesting to me. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Totally agree. Well, you heard it here, guys. What's the best way for our audience to connect with you, to follow what you're doing? Sterling, where's the place you want to send them to connect with you?
I guess the easiest thing is just a website at securedequities.com. And you can reach me directly. Email us at sterling@securedequities.com. And if you land on a website, you can contact me. You can set up an appointment to talk to me if you want. You can see what we're about. You can be directed to LinkedIn and other things like that. And so, yeah, that's the easiest, no fuss must way to get a hold of me. Yeah.
Easily done. We will make sure and put that in there. So if you guys are looking to connect with him, maybe you've got some money, some lazy asses you want to put to work and partner with Sterling. He's a great guy, knows his stuff, definitely crosses his T's and dots his I's for sure out there, and can do a great job with that for you. Sterling, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your case studies, experience, and a little testimony there. I really appreciate that.
Well, Scott, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, guys and gals, definitely take opportunity. Go take some action. There's plenty of deals out there. Yes, banks and lenders will send you deals that you can cherry pick. If you know what to say, what not, you want to learn more about our coaching, feel free to reach out to me. But like I said, do like Sterling, go take action, go learn something, and you will come out in a much better spot than just sitting on the sidelines not doing anything. So we'll go out and do it, and we'll see you at the top, everybody. Thanks. Hey, note investors. So you want to dive into the world of note investing, but know how to get started, or you don't want to pay 30, 40, $50,000 for a one-on-one coaching program that just completely does not deliver the deals or the funding or the access that you need to take your note business to the next level. That's why we have our one-on-one coaching program. I'm Scott Carson. I've been buying notes for 20 years. I've helped thousands of investors buy their first note direct from banks, using either their own funds or other people's money to buy non-performing, reperforming, or performing notes, yielding them an above average return. Now, what's involved with my one-on-one coaching program? It's unlike anybody else's, because guess what? You're working with yours truly, not some paid student, not looking at some recycled list of stuff. Now, what we do is differently than anybody else out there, and that's why we have such a huge success rate with our one-on-one coaching program. What's involved? Well, once you take in our 3-day class, our Note Buying for Dummies workshop, sign up for our coaching. You get 10 weeks of one-on-one coaching calls. These are on Zoom in the morning, the afternoon, the evening. What works best around your work schedule? We accommodate this to help you start looking at stuff. And during those 10 weeks, we focus on finding deals, making offers, getting your website, your social media stuff set up so that you are a lean, mean note buying machine. After spending 10 weeks of Zoom calls with yours truly, that's right, live, not somebody else, we'll spend 2 days one-on-one. And usually people come to Austin, Texas to hang out with us on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, Sunday. And those 2 days are focused on whatever you are still lacking and need the most amount of work on. Sometimes it's making offers. Like Larry came in, we made 50 offers that he got 20 approved in a weekend. Other people came in to raise capital. So we helped them find IRA investors to fund their deals so they're able to raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for their note deals and other investing stuff. We're also going to give you a list of asset manager contacts for you guys to dive into. That's right. This will be either LinkedIn profiles, emails, phone numbers, names, all for you to start reaching out to people. No, you don't need to buy notes directly from me. We're going to show you how to go to banks and contact them directly. We're also going to make introductions to our top 12 hedge fund managers that send us deals on a weekly or monthly basis. That's right. You go straight to the front of the line. And guess what? There's no 10, 20, or 30,000 upcharge for the deal. You buy direct from the hedge funds because we make the introduction. That's why, why do we do this? Because we know, not we believe, we know there are more than enough deals to go around. And yes, we make most of our money from buying note deals for ourselves. Some people would say, oh, you're creating competition. No, because there's plenty to go around. All right. We're also going to give you a 1-year membership to our WCN membership for 1 year. That's $97 a month usually. That's going to allow for you to continue support weekly coaching calls, along with access to our Basecamp group for other things, other tapes, other resources for our coaching students. We're going to help you with raising private capital, putting your pitch deck together, putting sample deals together, or either case studies that we've done, other students have done, or that you're doing, so that you help raise capital or help you find IRA investors in your local market or the markets you're looking to buy in. You're going to also, basically, for you plus your partner, spouse, person you're going through this with, you're going to have VIP access to me. That's right. Whether you need to jump on a quick phone call, a text message, a quick Zoom call to go through tapes or notes that you're making offers on for us to review your bids, or to help answer a question when it comes to loss mitigation, foreclosure, bankruptcy, what it might be about a deal you're working through, get VIP access to me most of the time. Come on now, everybody. We're also going to do a 6-month follow-up day after you spend 2 days with me. 6 months later, if you want to, we can do a half day, a full day Zoom follow-up just to see where you're at, what are you dealing with, where you're looking to go. Because within 6 months, you should have already closed on several deals the way that we teach them, because we will help you find your first deal and then some. We've had students who've closed on their first deal in 30 days. We've got others who've closed on 6 deals in their first 35 days. Other people have closed on 100 deals in their first year. We're here to help you, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? There is plenty of inventory out there. We're not going to focus on owner finance notes. We're going to focus on how to get people calling you with their deals, or how to get banks sending you lists on a regular basis that you can cherry pick and show you how to raise all the capital that you need. Our one-on-one coaching program is the most complete program out there. That's why you have such a high success rate. And it's cheaper than most of the others out there. And we also give you the biggest bang for the buck by helping you make the introductions, looking at the tapes, helping you bid if you're coachable. Now, not everybody's coachable. Not everybody can afford this, but what we can do is we can set up payment plans and different options for you. I encourage you to either book a phone call with me at talkwithscottcarson.com, and we can talk about it, see if you're a fit. Not everybody's a fit, and that's A-okay. But go to talkwithscottcarson.com, book a call on my schedule, and we'll gladly talk about our one-on-one note coaching program to see if you're a fit. One of the very requirements is we do require people to go through our 3-day class. But that whatever you've paid for that 3-day class is applied to the tuition for your one-on-one coaching. And we also have a third-party provider who's willing to finance this and carry financing for 2 to 3 years to help you pay it off. But we're going to work with you until you get your first deal closed. We want to help you make your money back in the first 6 months, if not sooner. So check us out. Pick up the phone. Give me a phone call. Talkwithscottcarson.com. That's talkwithscottcarson.com. Book a call, and let's see if you're fit to take your business next level. Sometimes all we need is just a hand up to take you to the next step, to show you the way. This is not a blow smoke up your tail, give you the crappy tapes left over, or upcharge you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per asset. No, we want you to buy direct. And we've always found if you can show a man how to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. So let's get started, you being a note investor for the rest of your investing lifetime.